This is Rhonda Brooks. I'm at Corn College this year here in Hayworth, Illinois with Ken Ferrie, field agronomist for Farm Journal. And Ken, your presentation that you're giving this year is on nitrogen, and you've been talking about how there's a lot of different pieces of a puzzle kind of that go into making up your fertility management program. Tell us a little bit about what you're telling farmers here.
What we're working with guys today is putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and the big piece is the environment, and the environment is of course weather and how that affects nitrogen, but also the farmer's practices. Is he strip till, no till, conventional till, moldboard plow? Is he corn on corn, corn on wheat, corn on beans? These are all big environmental issues that change how they should put their management together. So we're teaching how the environment that their customer or their farmers working with sets the stage for the timing. Meaning that when do we need to have timing available for that crop? We got to have nitrogen there every step of the way. So if they're in a farm that loses nitrogen on the back end, they got to protect the back end. If they're in an environment that has a lot of heavy carbon penalty and early nitrogen usage, they got to protect it there. So we take the environment that they're in, and then from there figure out the timing. How do we keep this plant happy all the way through? So the environment sets the tone for the timing. When does the nitrogen need to be there? The timing sets the stage for the placement. Where do we need to place that nitrogen to make sure it gets there? And of course, placement sets the tone for the source. What kind of nitrogen products can we use to meet those needs all the way through, and how do they best fit? While fall ammonia, for instance, may be the easiest, may be the most economical, it may miss a number of these windows that we're trying to do to manage the carbon penalty, for instance, in the spring. So we're trying to bring that all together. We're giving them some field experience where they get to see different applications made in different environments and kind of evaluate for themselves what it looks like now as we come into tasseling the problems that were created earlier in the year itself.
One thing you said earlier that really struck me was that how you can, if you change one piece of the puzzle, it really impacts everything else, that you can't do it in isolation.
That's crucial. That's where we run into most of our problems when a grower decides he's not going to do fall tillage, he's going to move it to the spring, or all of a sudden due to weather he's going to change his crop rotation, or he's going to add a cover crop to the mix, and he doesn't think about how these major environmental changes are going to create a chain reaction of how he has to manage the nitrogen throughout the season.
Okay. One last thing, if I'm looking at this, it builds into a pyramid. I've seen you give this presentation. Where do I start? I mean, there's so many different factors. How do you even get started addressing this?
You have to look at your whole production program in what we call a systems approach, and how everything is interlinked to each other. So it's one of those things where we worry about the fundamentals. We got to get the crop planted, we got to have good fertility, we got to have a good rooting structure, that type of thing below. But then as we start to add those pieces together, always think about how each piece is linked to other pieces. When you make your hybrid selection, that hybrid selection now becomes part of the decision in insect management due to the traits, herbicide management due to the traits, disease resistance that comes in there, how that hybrid wants its nitrogen, and how do you have to manage your fertility program itself. And what you do with that hybrid when you turn around and say, I'm going to use this hybrid, but I'm going to use it in a corn-on-corn no-till scenario, that changes the fertility program, that changes the disease management side of that equation as well, and in a lot of cases may change the herbicide options that you're going to put out there in the field. So I always think, when I make one change, how many possible things did that one change affect? Because that's usually where the problems take place. A guy makes a major change in hybrid selection or fertility program and doesn't realize the repercussions it has through his whole system.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Ken.
You bet.